Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, and today we're going to be talking about a very particular state, the state of Arizona, which I decided to cover considering the fact that I recently released this poll in which I gave you guys the opportunity to respond as to which political candidate you believed would win in each individual state. I know it's a little bit confusing because Joe Biden is in red and Donald Trump is in blue, but just imagine we're in the 1980s and they did this before they were like R for Reagan and red for Reagan, whatever. So just imagine we're a couple decades past in the past, and that's just how the coloring system goes. So in my recent one, 69% out of 1,700 respondents said that Joe Biden, at least they personally predict, putting aside all political bias, obviously that's impossible, but in the greatest sense that they could, and they truly believe Joe Biden would win the state of Arizona. Now, this is very different from 1 year ago. About a year ago, I had the same exact question with 1,000 less respondents. Granted, my channel was a lot smaller back then, but they gave Donald Trump the victory here. 60% out of 700 respondents of those who watched my channel. Now, this was the only state that was drastically different in terms of switching between sides. There were a number of other changes, which I might reserve for another video, considering I'm only going to be focusing on Arizona here. But I do think that it is very interesting and 100% should be covered, the fact that people a year ago did not think Arizona was as in play. And, that's surprising to me given the state of Arizona's electoral history, recently electing a Democrat to the Senate in 2018. I'm assuming a lot of people in 2018 saw that as a fluke. They didn't think that this state would be competitive. This was months. This was 4 or 5 months after the 2018 midterm election. So Democrats were riding high. They had just won the majority of the House seats that come from Arizona. And now, Arizona isn't being viewed in as much of a swing state as it is now. So what really has changed? Well, not a lot has changed in terms of the electoral composition. Arizona has become increasingly more Democratic as the years progress. In 2018, Donald Trump won the state of Arizona by around 3.5%, despite Mitt Romney's overwhelming victory in 2012. When you look at the margins and you add them all up, Mitt Romney won by around 9% in 2012. John McCain didn't do as good. I just think it was a little bit narrower. It is John McCain's home state, but that was just because Obama had a very, very large electoral presence. But Arizona has always been a very solid state for the GOP. The last time I went to a Democrat was in 1996 due to vote splitting. It wasn't because the Democrats had a majority in the state. So the last time a Democrat won in Arizona was 24 years ago from the 2020 presidential election. So as we progress up, they had 74% turnout in Arizona in 2016. I can almost imagine it will be increased unless we have a vote-by-mail system. And if it is increased, then it will 100% benefit the Democratic Party, just because of the fact that, number one, the demographic shifts have been benefiting the Democratic Party. An increase of Latino voters almost always means good news for the Democratic Party, with the exception of some small pockets in Florida and some small pockets in Texas, but generally it means very good news for the Democratic Party. As they move into 2020, Arizona was already at the top of their list of states that they were going to try to win in. Hillary Clinton came close in 2016, despite losing the overall electoral map. Arizona voted to the left of Iowa, Ohio, Texas, rivaled states such as Georgia and North Carolina in terms of how Republican it was, despite it being originally not so much of a swing state. It was close, but nobody really expected Hillary Clinton to carry it in 2016. But now that 2020 is around, there's a whole different dynamic with Joe Biden being way more popular, and the fact that Democrats have won statewide races in the past in this state particularly. On the electoral map, this is my current characterization for the ratings for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Right now, I do give the state of Arizona to Joe Biden. 4 years ago, I did not give it to Hillary Clinton. 289 electoral votes for Joe Biden, 249 for Donald Trump, which means that Arizona, while being good for the Biden campaign, is not crucial to their victory. They can win without Arizona. But there's one state that's actually expected to be a little bit closer than the state of Arizona, according to my characterization, and that is the state of Wisconsin. I can almost 100% guarantee Arizona will vote to the left of Wisconsin in the general election. Wisconsin itself is not so much a Democratic state. Yes, they have a Democratic senator. Yes, they have a Democratic governor. They're about even in terms of House of Representatives. I think the Republicans have one more. I think it's 5-3, or it might be 4-4. It's 5-3 because Michigan and Pennsylvania are tied, but Wisconsin's not. So there's more Republicans in terms of representatives. Whether that's an issue to gerrymandering is not up for me to decide right now. But when you look at the overall state itself, it's very much back and forth. Wisconsin could have been in the bag for the Democratic Party. All Joe Biden would have to do, it could be, is pick Tammy Baldwin as his vice presidential candidate. But then that puts the Senate election up in the special election as the first referendum against President Biden come January 2021. So if Biden does win, and he wins the state of Wisconsin, and he's winning in Wisconsin, he's winning the election. That's just how it's probably going to go. Then the Democrats will have to worry about a Senate seat, which is exactly why they may not think about Tammy Baldwin as a possible VP choice. Same thing for Gretchen Whitmer. That governor election, I don't know if it would automatically go to the lieutenant governor and then there would be a special election, or I'm not entirely sure how the Michigan government process works for special elections and gubernatorial vacancies, but it'd likely just go to the lieutenant governor. But again, they're still losing a pretty notable name in the Rust Belt to send to Washington. So despite the Rust Belt being crucial to the Democrats' victory, I honestly don't think they'll choose a VP from the Rust Belt. Gretchen Whitmer has opened up about the fact that she's been talking with Joe Biden about a possible VP spot. She said a couple months ago that it wasn't going to be her 100%. So they definitely reopened their look into Gretchen Whitmer as a possible VP choice, but the Biden campaign pretty much has the Rust Belt doubled down. And if they do choose her as a VP, but they're losing in areas such as New Hampshire or Colorado, it may all be for nothing. But again, like I said, my Slack channel just went on. Like I said, Wisconsin is going to vote to possibly the right of the state of Arizona, which means if I take that one away from Joe Biden, he still wins the election with Arizona. Arizona is 100% crucial to the Democratic Party in the Senate elections, but not so much in the presidential election. It is very good for the Democrats if they win it in the presidential election. It would pretty much just secure them a victory because Donald Trump could win Wisconsin narrowly, while Michigan and Pennsylvania, as expected, go to the Democrats. Arizona, voting to the Democratic Party, would give the Democratic Party the White House. They don't need Wisconsin anymore. They've pretty much replaced it with Arizona. If you look in the 2018 House of Representatives elections, this is a very clear difference from 2016. In 2016, the Republican Party got 52.49% of the House of Representatives vote, and the Democrats got 45% rounded up. In 2014, it was even worse. The Democrats got a mere 39% in the House of Representatives, losing an overall one seat. In 2012, it narrowed up a little bit because the Democrats gained 2 seats in the House of Representatives, but other than that, they never really had the upper hand. Let's go back to 2008. 2008 was the year that the Democratic Party last had an electoral college landslide, and the last time that the Democratic Party won the state of Arizona in terms of the I guess this was right before the census, so it added on an electoral vote. So there's 9 seats now. So the Democrats got 5 out of the 8 seats here, and won with a mere 45.47% of the vote. In a year, President Barack Obama absolutely demolished John McCain in the electoral college map. So when you look at that and you take into account Arizona for the 2020 election, when you look at 2018, the Democratic Party had a very large portion of the vote compared to any other type of Democratic wave year, whether it was 2008 or 2012, or even when the Democrats gained seats in the House in 2016, the Republicans were usually always on top, or the Democrats were narrowly ahead. In 2018, the Democratic Party got 50.37% of the vote, and the Republican Party got 48.66, 49% up rounded, which means the Democratic Party officially had the majority of number 1 House seats in the state of Arizona, an overall popular vote. One of the first few signs that show the Democratic Party a very clear lead for 2020, or a very competitive stance for the 2020 election. In 2018, Arizona also held a special election not a special election, a regularly planned election. They have a special election this year, in which Martha McSally was the Republican and Kristen Sinema, now elected Democratic senator from Arizona. Sorry about that, my screen recorder cut out, but I was pretty much talking about Arizona and how Kristen Sinema won this race despite polling data indicating that she would not win it. In 2018, Kristen Sinema was losing on election day. She led throughout the entire campaign season up until it narrowed around, mid-2018 closing, so about October surprise time period, in which Martha McSally took up the upper hand on election day. And OH Predictive Insights, this is one I want to talk about right now. They gave Martha McSally a 1-point lead on election day. Pretty much, she was expected to win. She led by 1%, and typically polls, if you look at what is spun by Republican operatives on the mainstream media, not saying Democrats don't do, but they do say that the polling does underestimate the Republican Party. So if this was true, the Democrats should have lost the Senate race. But, Martha McSally outperformed her polling data by 0.1%. Kristen Sinema did it by 2.4%. sorry, 3.4%. So when you look at the numbers, Kyrsten Sinema outperformed the polling data. And when you look at the margin, it wasn't exactly the smallest margin. There were narrower races in 2018, and Arizona's Senate race was pretty solid for Kyrsten Sinema. In fact, that shows 49.9, but she won with 50% of the vote. She had a pretty substantial lead over Martha McSally. This was not an automatic recount type scenario where it was less than 0.5%. It wasn't that close, to be completely honest. And the swing from the Jeff Flake final victory in 2012 when Barack Obama won, despite Barack Obama winning the presidential election, and Jeff Flake was wildly unpopular. I mean, we really never saw anyone who was super unpopular like Jeff Flake except for Mitch McConnell. He still won his Senate race despite being a very unpopular senator. In a Democratic wave year in 2006, the Democrats didn't even come close to winning the Senate race. So in 2018, Kyrsten Sinema did a very good job. And it doesn't end here for Martha McSally. She is now running in the Senate race, appointed senator by Governor Doug Ducey. For whatever reason, it was one of probably the stupidest moves that I've seen this entire campaign season, to appoint someone who just was rejected by voters 2 years ago. But Martha McSally is now the incumbent Republican senator from Arizona, and she is now losing to Mark Kelly, husband of Gabby Giffords, and she is losing by 8%. I mean, that's insane. Ohio Predictive Insights, despite predicting Martha McSally's victory by 1% in 2018, is now predicting a Mark Kelly victory by 9%. If Kyrsten Sinema outperformed the margins from that poll by 3.3% in 2018, can you imagine if Mark Kelly outperforms a 9% lead poll? It'll be labeled as a likely, possibly safe Democratic seat the next time this one is up, because based off the way these trends are going, it was a Republican seat in 2016. John McCain won by around 10%, and then you move on to 2018. The Democrats win by 2.3%, and then they win by 12%. If they outperform by the same margin the 2018 polls were off by, I mean, it would just be absolutely crazy for the Republican Party, and they would pretty much have to give up Ohio. Why did I say that? Because I saw OH. Arizona at that point, and it doesn't get any better for Donald Trump on the presidential election either. In 2016, according to polling data, he was supposed to win Arizona by 4%. He won by 3.5%, so it was well within the margin of error, but Biden is now expected to win by 4%. So what if Biden wins by 3.5%? Arizona, again, while not crucial to the Biden campaign, will negate the need for Wisconsin. Wisconsin could possibly just be given up to the GOP at this point, because Wisconsin will 100% be super close, and it could go back and forth. Regardless of the way the national trend is swinging, Wisconsin will likely vote to the right of the national vote and possibly even go to Donald Trump, despite Michigan and Pennsylvania going to Joe Biden. But if Wisconsin goes, based off the electoral map I would have given you around a year ago, I would say the election goes to Trump, because at that point in time, I was not considering Arizona as a Biden state. I was considering it a toss-up, but I did think that Donald Trump would take it at the end of the day, as did many of you guys. But when you look at the current data between then and now, a lot more people are starting to realize that Arizona is 100% in play, and it is no longer a state that is more likely to go to Trump than it is for Joe Biden. So Arizona, there is a lot of hope for Democrats here in 2020. Again, I'll reiterate, it's not crucial, but it would be very good for the Democratic Party. It is crucial for the Senate, somewhat in the House, not so much in the presidential election, but it would definitely send a clear message to the GOP that their hold in the Sunbelt states dwindles. The GOP is expected to do worse in Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, possibly even Utah, and Texas. And if the trends continue here, forget the Rust Belt. The Democrats won't even need it. As soon as Texas flips in 2024, 2028, when it becomes super competitive, forget the Rust Belt. Trump could win it. Could run it up. Wouldn't matter. Because the Democratic Party, based off electoral trends, has a lot clearer pathways to victory in the future, not just now, than the Republicans do. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all tomorrow.